Hi, welcome to the second part of our lecture video about the principles of high-quality assessments. From the previous video, we talked about principle number 1, clarity of learning targets, and principle number 2, appropriate assessment methods. Here on this lecture video, we will talk about principle number 3, which is validity, and principle number 4, which is reliability. Now let us begin with principle number 3, which is validity. It came from the root word valid, which means acceptable or appropriate. So as teachers, we are expected to prepare appropriate, valid, and acceptable assessment tools which suits to the level of the learners. Now let us discuss validity. Validity means the assessment instrument measures what it intends to measure. What do we intend to measure, by the way? It could be the objectives. Let us remember that for us to determine that we are successful with our lesson, we are going to test the attainment of our objectives, or it could be the learning of the students. Now, the assessment instrument should provide information what are the learning of the students, or it could also determine if the instruction given by the teacher is effective, or it could also measure the effectivity of the material that were used by the teacher. And it also refers to the usefulness of the instrument for a given purpose. Is it for formative assessment that you are looking for mastery or improvement? Or is it for diagnostic assessment? You want to determine the recurring difficulties encountered by the learner? Or is it for summative purpose? You want to give a grade that will certify the accomplishment of the students from a series of teaching. And it is the most important criterion of a good assessment instrument. So we should prepare valid, appropriate, and acceptable assessment tools that is appropriate to the objectives and appropriate to the level of the learners. Here are the types of validity. First is phase validity. We also have content validity, criterion-related validity, and construct validity. Phase validity. From the name itself, phase, or this is the first thing that you will see. This is the time that you will release your first impression as soon as you receive the test paper. So there might be emotions or excitement as soon as you receive the test paper, because this is done by examining the physical appearance of the instrument. Whatever you see first, is it the graph? Is it the blanks? Is it the number of items that you recognize first? Or is it the given selection that you have to read? And this also includes the font style, the font size, the indentation, the layout of the exam, even the clarity of copies. Font style. So there are font style that are difficult to read. And font size, there are some teachers who are choosing very small font size. Some are big font style. No, to justify the small font size, there are some schools that would require the teacher to limit only two-page exam. So for them to maximize the two-page, they are using small font size. Even the spacing, they don't provide spacing just to maximize the two-page exam. And we also have the indentation, no? And the layout of the exam. Now, this is very important, the layout of the exam. For me, as a math teacher, I usually don't place the graph on the first page because there are some students who will experience mental block, or there are some students who will experience fear, apprehension while receiving the test paper, and upon seeing the first page of the exam, clarity of copies. Now, there are some teachers who will go to photocopy center, they will ask to reproduce the copies, and there are some copies that the words are very difficult to see. No? Next is content validity, which I consider as the most important because this is the thing that they will actually answer. This is it contains the knowledge, the skills, and the concept that they need to answer. And content is very important because this is the thing that will challenge their knowledge, their understanding, their cognitive operations. And this is also very important for us teacher to prepare exams or contents of the exams based on what we have discussed. Because there are some teachers who are giving items, including items, trivial items, no, items that is not included in the discussion. When I was still a student, I will only study the things on the things that the teacher have discussed during class. So as a teacher, we should also think that one, we should only prepare exam for the things that we have discussed. And this is done through a careful and critical examination of the objectives and topics so that the test reflects the curricular objectives that was taught. And to strengthen content validity, teachers will prepare a table of specifications before writing test item to strengthen the sampling of items per topic. And TOS is also known as the guide in test writing. So again, how do we strengthen content validity? We need to prepare TOS. Now let us remember the first step in doing TOS. We need to go back to the topics, or we need to review the objectives, no, of the things that we have discussed. We are preparing TOS to strengthen the sampling of items per topic, meaning we distribute the number of items. Topic 1, these are the number of items. Topic 2, these are the number of items. If we are not going to prepare the TOS, it could be that most of our items in the test are distributed only in topic 1. Topic 2, there are 2 items. Topic 3, it's only 3 items. So if we are going to use the TOS, we will be able to distribute the number of items all throughout the topic. That is why it is a guide in test writing. Next one is criterion-related validity. It means that the criteria of your exam is related to other exams, or it could be you are borrowing the criteria of other exam. It's like a mock test. Now, if you are preparing the LET exam, of course, you are making exams similar to LET exam, and we call it criterion-related validity because you are borrowing the criteria of LET exam. But this one needs to be established statistically such that a set of scores revealed by measuring instrument is correlated with the scores obtained in another external or predictor or measure. And it has 2 purposes. The first one is concurrent validity. It will estimate an individual present standing based on the criteria. So if, so for example, you took a 100 item test and it uses the criteria of LET exam, and we know that the passing rate of LET exam is 75% and you only got 70%, it means if you are going to take the exam today, you will likely fail. No, but that is good because that is just a trial exam. It means that you still have something to do to improve your score. And that would lead to the second purpose, which is predictive validity, which will describe your future performance if you will likely pass or if you will likely fail. Next is construct validity. It refers to the psychological traits and effects of the instrument. For example, it demonstrates that the test is actually measuring what it is supposed to measure. For example, you might try to find out if an educational program increases emotional maturity in elementary school age children. Construct validity would measure if your research is actually measuring emotional maturity. And that is construct validity. Now, going back to the meaning, psychological traits and effects of the instrument. So this would include the readiness of the students, if they are ready or not. If they are not ready, now, while taking the exam, they might have some confusions or frustrations. Or while taking the exam, if it is very noisy, they might be disturbed. Or if they are not feeling well with while taking the exam, their concentration while taking the exam might be affected, or the score of their exam might be affected. Or another thing is they are unaware that there is an exam and they are now taking an exam, so they cannot focus they cannot focus answering the exam. Another thing is if the copy of the test paper is not very clear, no, instead of focusing immediately in answering the question, so they have to refocus their thinking on what is the exact word that they are reading. Another thing, if the instructions are not clear, it will actually affect their performance because they will be bothered thinking on what is the clear instruction rather than answering immediately. Here are the factors affecting validity. First is unclear direction. Now, this is very important for it to be acceptable. Now, supposed to be the design of your exam is very nice, but the direction is misleading. It would bring down the validity of your exam. I remember an assignment in math. The teacher says, write the sum on the space provided. Now, here is an item. 3 plus 4 equals line. So, the learner write SUM or sum on that particular blank. He did that right 7 because 3 plus 4 is 7. But based on the instruction, write sum on the space provided. So the learner write sum. What do you think? Is the learner correct or there's a problem with the direction? It's up to you. Second is vocabulary and sentence construction. Now, this is very important. I will recommend to keep it a kiss. Keep it short and simple. Another thing is ambiguity of options. As much as possible, make the options homogeneous, meaning closely related to the correct answer, or make the options plausible, or it is attractive. Make sure that the options are not obviously correct, are not and not obviously wrong. Fourth, inadequate time limits. If you have answered your exam in 10 minutes, allow them to answer it in 20 or 30 minutes. Remember that your capacity is different to the capacity of your learners. Number 5, overemphasis of easy and difficult questions. Do not give all easy items and do not give all difficult items. I will recommend that you build up difficulty. You start from easy, you move to moderate, and lastly, you have the difficult questions. I will also recommend that please do not put item number 1 as very difficult question because they will not enjoy answering the rest of the items. But if you will begin number 1 as easy, they will enjoy answering the rest of the items. Number 5, task items with inappropriate instrument. This is also another issue. It will bring down your validity of your exam. Say for example, your objective is at the end of the lesson, the students would be able to swim. Or at the end of the lesson, your students will be able to perform cha-cha and you gave them a multiple choice test. So it's like, where is the connection between the objective and the assessment? Number 7, poorly constructed test items. For students, this is the thing that we are waiting for in every checking. It's the bonus. Bonus. So, for students, we are very happy if it is a poorly constructed items because it will turn out to be a bonus. But for teachers, it's not a good sign that there are bonus items. So we have to review our test items again and again so that we can assure that all items are part of the things that we have discussed. Length of the test. This is another item that we need to consider, because if the item is very long, the students might get bored in answering. They might not take it seriously. They might just answer by guessing. And if the item is very short, the question is it widely distributed? I mean, the sampling of items, is it widely distributed? And I guess time limits and length of the test should be proportional to each other. If the exam is a little bit long and you have to provide a little bit longer time as well. Another thing is number 9, readiness of the students. It is very important that we should inform the students if they are going to take the exam, for them to be ready. Now, I also understand that there are some teachers that will give unannounced quizzes or unannounced exam, and maybe those things won't be recorded. Those are just for checking if you are reading your notes, if you are prepared for a class. But if it is a long test or a summative exam, it is very important that learners should be informed that there is an incoming quiz or exam. Principle number 3, validity. No, it is fairly obvious that a valid assessment should have a good coverage of the criteria, including concepts, skills, and knowledge, which is relevant to the purpose of the examination. Principle number 4, from the root word reliable, which means it can be trusted. But here in assessment, reliability is defined as consistency of scores obtained by the same person or the same group. Test results that are dependable, consistent, and repeatable are considered reliable. Again, here in assessment, it is defined as consistency of scores obtained by the same person or the same group. And here are the types of reliability: test, retest, alternate form, split half, Coder-Richardson, and Cronbach coefficient alpha. Number 1, test, retest. From the name itself, there is a test, and we need to take the test again. That is why it's called retest. And test, retest will measure stability. Here you have the same test, or there is only one exam that will be given after a quantitative period of time. So for example, after 2 weeks, so you give a pre-test, and then you give a lecture or discussion or content teaching time for 2 weeks, and after 2 weeks you gave the same test again as a post-test. So one instrument administered twice, and it uses pre-test and post-test. We use this if we want to measure the gains of learning. So how much learning they have gained before the instruction and after the instruction. Some experts consider this test retest as questionable due to practice and familiarity, for the fact that some students won't take it seriously the second time they would see the same question. That is similar to my experiences when I was still younger, when I read the same question and I have answered it before. There is a tendency that I would change my answer. So I would choose the same answer the first time I answered it. Though there are some students who will take it seriously, but again, there are some students. Second one is alternate form, which is also known as equivalent form or parallel form. This one, it will measure equivalence. You are going to construct another set of test items, yet the competencies and standards are the same, meaning you have to make another exam in order to address the issue of test retest. And there are 2 instruments administered twice, like you are giving it as a pre-test and a post-test. So after a certain period of time on the post-test, there are items in the pre-test that is new, or All items in the post-test are new items, but the competencies and standards are the same. Or it could be two instruments administered one or once, meaning there is no pre-test. This is just a post-test, but there is a set A and set B. Number three is split half, meaning you divide it into half. You split it in half. This one, it will measure internal consistency. You only need one exam, so give a test once, then use all odd numbers as set A, then all even numbers as set B. Then you record the number of students who got the correct answer per item. Number four, we have Coder Richardson. This one also measures internal consistency. And this is used for binary test or alternate exam or dichotomous test, or these are the tests which has two answers like legal or illegal, moral or immoral, right or wrong, yes or no, and the most popular is true or false. Here in Coder Richardson, you give the test once, then correlate the proportion or percentage of the students passing and not passing a given item. Or then the number of students who get the correct item or wrong item over the total number of items. The first three types of reliability will be used for multiple choice. And this one is used again for binary test. Number five, we have Cronbach coefficient alpha. This one also measures internal consistency. You give a test once, then estimate reliability by using standard deviation per item and standard deviation of test scores. And this is usually used for essays. Although there is also a Cronbach alpha for multiple choice, for binary test, but for essay, Cronbach coefficient alpha will be used. And here are the factors affecting reliability. Number one, we have test length. A longer a longer assessment generally produces more reliable results. It is an acceptable notion here in reliability that if you have a longer exam, you have higher chances that you have a high reliability. And if you have a shorter exam, there is a possibility that reliability will go down. Number two, we have spread of scores. We use standard deviation for this one. So if you have higher standard deviation, more likely you will have a higher reliability. And if you have a lower standard deviation, you will also have a lower reliability. But this is not true all the time. There are special cases that the result is opposite. But this is the idea. If the scores are widely spread or it varies from each other, there is a very high possibility that reliability will increase. But if the scores are closely the same to each other, reliability will likely go down. We also have item difficulty. If the item is easy or difficult, very easy or very difficult, the possible result is it is not reliable or reliability will go down. But if your items are on average level of difficulty, there's a very high possibility that reliability will increase. And we also have item discrimination and we also have time limits. That would be all for today. Watch out for part 3. Thank you so much. Bye bye.